If you're a mum, you've been to Tantrum Town. It's that place just across the street from Sweet Sanity. It starts with a pout, and then a whimper that turns into a wail, that builds up to a whine that crescendos into a diabolical demonstration of total toddler meltdown. Last night, me and my dear Penny Lee, aged 3, took a trip to Tantrum Town. It was the mashed potato. Penny Lee hates them, and I put the tiniest spoonful on her plate, and suddenly dinner turns into a high drama of spit-up spuds. "No tato," she says, putting on her best pout face. "But you'll like these," I coax. "They've got lots of yummy butter." "I hate butter," she whimpers, turning up the volume by a few decibels. "Just try them." "No." "If you do not eat some potato, then there is no dessert," I threaten. To try and encourage her, I make the mistake of mixing the sausage with the mash. I take aim, shove a spoonful into her mouth. Mummy lesson learned: do not mess with Penny Lee's meat. We are now in complete toddler meltdown mode. She spits out that mouthful, picks up her dinner plate, flings it across the kitchen like some kind of frisbee, quickly followed by her sippy cup, which hits a cupboard, opens and splatters milk everywhere. All the while, she's screaming like some bloody banshee in training. I am now on autopilot, mummy temper control. I sit perfectly still and perfectly silent and give my dear Penny Lee the mummy stare down. Penny Lee's tantrum tap turns into a trickling spigot of tears and sobs. "Mummy," she hiccups. "What happens now?" No dessert." "And then what?" "The time out," she answers in her sad, sorry little voice. So, I release her from the bondage of her booster seat, and she heads off up to her room to do her time for her crime committed in Tantrum Town, whilst I'm left to clear up the combat zone. Now, someday I will look back on this stage of my little darling's development and laugh. That's what people tell me anyway, and I am sure they're right. But tonight, my precious little Penny Lee is in the custody of Grandma and Papa, because Mummy and Daddy need some time out, alone, with a quiet meal and a bottle of wine, and perhaps the luxury of a little bit of sweet sanity. Well, right off she walks in, plonks herself down, and she looks, well, I'm not saying, blousy. And I thought, oh, we've got a right one here. Anyway, I start. "Thank you for coming here today at this difficult time. We should start by taking down some details." And I pick up my fountain pen. Shows tradition. Gold shows quality, and that's us. Well, it used to be. It's all gone downhill these days. I buried somebody in a wicker casket last week. I tell you, it's basically a picnic hamper. Anyway, I start off. "Your name?" "Anna Markham." Bit sharp. "And could you give me the name of your loved one?" And she looks at me dead on. "He's not a loved one." Okay. I smile. "Well, let's start with the name." And she says, "I don't know." So I let out a long sigh. "Sorry?" And she says, "What I say, I don't know. Well, we used to call him Co-op Jim." Right. Co-op gym? And she says, well, yeah, that's where he sat for 10 to 15 years. A tramp. Well, I guess nowadays we'd call him homeless because he wasn't a beggar, proper friendly and smiley, and he'd sit there all weathers, pissing down, freezing, didn't matter. I think he used to sleep round the back and eat out the bin. Well, I'd gathered my thoughts now, and I say, you do realise there's a cost? And she says, oh, it's okay. I have a plan. I look at her. A plan? And she says straight in there, oh yes, I bought it off an advert in Midsummer Murdersome in the afternoon. You know, the more people get murdered, the more you think about these things. I can use that, can't I? Yes, well, these things normally are transferable. And what about your own arrangements? Bam, straight back at me. Oh, well, when I'm gone, they can sell my house and that'd be worth about 80 grand. They could chuck me in a bin bag for all I care. Well, isn't that just typical of these days? Anyway, I get her details and I say I'll look into it. I phone the police station and speak to the coroner's office. Eric, we go way back. Now, it used to be, if you were generous and on the square, you'd go straight to the top of the call-out list. Well, not now. Which is right, I suppose. Anyway, I ask Eric if they've had a sudden homeless, and he says, oh, aye, you'll be talking about Co-op Gym. Honestly, I must be the only one in town who doesn't... Anyway, well, I say I've been asked to look after the arrangements, because I have the details next of kin, and he laughs, sounds like a drain unblocking. Oh, you're in luck. We know his name, Jim McDonald. His prints were on file. Now, to be honest, I was a bit disappointed by this, and I let out a shame. And he says, oh, no, not like that. Ex-servicemen. All their prints are kept on file, and there's a regimental tattoo. Lancashire, they think. Ah, well, what do they say? He laughs. You're joking. You know how mad it is here. So, next, I ring Regimental HQ. And I get put through to Human Resources. Human Resources. I mean, this is the army. The next thing, there'll be a health and safety department. Anyway, eventually I'm put through to this old sweat who's a walking archive. And he lets out this long whistle. You, my friend, are talking about Colonel Sergeant James MacDonald. Most decorated soldier the regiment's ever had. A true hero. And now listen, in our books, a hero isn't them that kills the most enemy. It's those that save the most of our lads. And he saved plenty in 3 campaigns, hardly lost a man. Well, that got me thinking. So I'm straight on to the stables. Prepare the horse and carriage for next Friday. We are doing a processional. First one in years. Now, I have to let it be known so that I don't get too many complaints or bloody run over. Well, if you'd have seen me, I stepped out of that office. And there was Anna. Got up really nicely. It was so freezing that day, you could see your breath. Black top hat, long silver-topped cane. I wrap it on the cobbles 3 times. The horse is magnificent, tall black plumes. It was right. It was proper. When I stepped out that gate, there were a dozen coppers, white gloves, the lot. About 40 soldiers, full dress, and the streets are lined 2-3 deep, everyone out to pay their respects. And I cried every step of that 1.5 miles. We both did, me and Anna. I've never felt so proud. Proud of this town. Proud of this community. Proud of that man. despite the fear of COVID-19 spreading worldwide, I was actually quite excited by the idea of self-isolating. It sounded peaceful. I'm a teacher, and as you'll know, our work never ends. But I've always just accepted it and got on with the infinite workload and tried to live a life somewhere in between, never realising that a bit of social distancing, a bit of lockdown is exactly what I needed, just to stop me rushing through my days and letting life just race past me. For the first time ever, I feel like I can breathe, which is ironic because this virus attacks your respiratory system. But it finally gave me some spare time at last. And so I thought I'd spend it with my new boyfriend. And I hate him. Absolutely. Like, he is completely ruining this experience for me. We started dating a month before lockdown, and he seemed like a really sweet guy, which he was. But now, thinking about it, I realise he was likeable because I didn't have to see him that much. We'd only meet up twice a week and it was perfect. Then Corona hit and we were facing a lockdown, and me and my stupid emotions thinking, but this guy could be the one. I could marry this guy like in some stupid rom-com. I suggested he spent lockdown with me. I thought we'd play board games and talk and share resources, keep on top of the housework and sex maybe. Well, the latter's gone by the wayside. I don't want that whinging bugger touching me. Seriously, every time he coughs, he thinks he's got coronavirus. Is his cough dry? He asks. You are an idiot, I tell him. The other day, he did a full body workout, and then the next day his body was aching. Obviously from the workout. Nope. He convinces himself he's got coronavirus again. I tell you, I might as well get the tape measure out and size him up for his coughing. It's unbelievable. He leaves pots everywhere, eats all of our shared resources, and then plays the games console all day. It's just, you know... I don't know if you can hear that. No? Well, that is the sound of Tom in the basement for involuntary self-isolation. Yes, I have enforced some stricter lockdown measures whilst I regain my sanity. And do you know what? I've started enjoying this pandemic again. My students are sat silently bent over their desks, pen scribbling across the page, and I move amongst them, observe them. A word of praise here, a correction of grammar there. My good mood has been commented upon, observed by them. It is my birthday. Someone has dared to ask. Catherine says I have an otherness about me that she just cannot fathom, that I'm a paradox. I understand her reasoning. I do so enjoy our chats. I go to see her to help manage my stress. Occupational therapy, not my choice. I have to go as part of my reintegration to the workplace. An unfortunate incident a few months ago between myself and a student. Now, she asks me how a teacher can have such an apparent loathing of children and if I'm in the right profession. And I tell her, it's not a loathing. It's a duty of care. A teacher has to be strict, keep them in line, set the boundaries. It's the only way to protect them from themselves and each other. And I do protect them. Weed out the dangers that are a threat to the harmony of our learning community. I have made the right choice selecting this one. He is the most deserving. I have watched and waited and patiently taken notes on each incident and every assault. I have listened to that filthy mouth spew forth expletives, disrespect, rudeness. I have watched as he spat at, thumbed and picked on the weak. Yes, this past year I have painstakingly catalogued the evidence. and judged him guilty. I have him secured, the chosen one. He's bound and gagged with just a touch of sedation. Later, I'll put the plastic over the boy's face. Then once it's done, I shall remove his tie. I'll add it to my collection.